Hey everybody, I'm Misty. Welcome to This Family Life. I am filming a couple of intros for videos in my car while I'm waiting for time to go into my calculus class. It is Monday morning, and one of the videos that I worked on this weekend that I'm going to finish up for you probably today and get scheduled out is a not what's for dinner, but a cook with me video that is on how to make homemade lasagna. So if you've never made homemade lasagna, there are about 18 million ways to make it. I'm just going to show you how we make it. I think it's a pretty simple recipe, but yet it feeds a lot of people and it's very good. Leftovers are very good. All you have to do is cut it up. You can put it in the freezer, and then when you're ready, just take it out, thaw it out, and pop it in the microwave or reheat it in the oven. We will eat off of it at least a couple of days. We will just reheat it straight out of the refrigerator, and then we will cut up and freeze what's left at that point. So stay tuned. We'll show you a simple and quick, easy way to make lasagna for your family. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to the videos. We have our contest going on. So once we reach 100 subscribers, we are giving away an Amazon gift card. So we are happy to have you here with us, and we want to see you stay with us, watch our videos, and continue to help grow our community. So stay tuned and we'll get started on making homemade lasagna. Okay, so for tonight's dinner, we are making homemade lasagna. This is something that I like to do every once in a while. I know I just made kind of a pasta dish yesterday. Normally I wouldn't make two pasta dishes back to back, but it is Sunday, which is pretty much the only other night of the week that I have to cook a big meal. The rest of the week tends to be easy things. So in this pot, I'm just boiling water with some olive oil, and that's what I'm going to cook my noodles in. In this pot, in this pan, I'm going to brown up my hamburger meat. This is probably close to 2 pounds of hamburger meat. I used to only use 1 pound in my lasagna, but I found that I like it with a little more meat and sauce than some people. So I've started upping it to about 1.5 pounds, pound and 3/4. That's more what's in here, not actually 2 pounds. So gonna wait for this water to boil, going to cook my pasta, gonna brown my hamburger meat, and then we will be back to go to the next step. So as far as what noodles to use, oven ready versus traditional, it really doesn't matter. I've used both kinds. Tonight, this oven ready, I don't have enough of it left, so I am going to do the kind that you have to boil in water tonight. But if you are trying to decide in the store, either one's going to be fine. It just depends on if you want the prep time involved to boil noodles and put them in the pan, or if you just want something you can throw in and it's going to be good to go. So either way, perfectly fine. Also for my lasagna tonight, I'm going to be using the Rao's homemade marinara sauce as my sauce for my lasagna. Sometimes I'll make my own sauce. Sometimes I use store-bought sauce. Really just depends what I'm looking for. I have been using this in my lasagna the last couple of times, and I feel that it by far makes the best tasting lasagna. So we're going to stick with that for tonight. So I just got these at Costco. You can get them at regular stores. So again, just the Rao's homemade marinara. One thing that I like to do when I'm making homemade lasagna is I will spray my pan with a non-stick cooking spray. This just helps when you cut the lasagna at the end. You'll get your pieces out better and your good stuff won't all stick to the bottom of the pan. So if you haven't been doing that before, try that trick. It really does help make a smoother cut and get the lasagna out of the pan nice and clean. So right now, as you can see, my water is getting close to boiling. I'm still working on browning up the hamburger meat. I do have my oven set to 375 degrees, so waiting on that to warm up. If this turns out to be too much meat for my lasagna, don't worry. We will save it in a baggie. I'm making homemade pizzas on maybe Tuesday or Wednesday night this week. So we'll save it even with the sauce on it, and we'll spread it on our pizzas, and that'll just be one more topping that we have for our pizzas this week. Okay, so our hamburger meat is almost ready to be drained, and then we can add the sauce and let it start heating through. So that is going good. Our noodles are boiling, which is good. The reason I add the olive oil is it's supposed to help them to not stick to the pan and to not stick to each other, which is important when we get them out later. And so these noodles stay to cook for 10 minutes, which is fine because they're going to go in the oven to continue to cook with the sauce and everything on them. And I decided to cook 12 noodles. Now you may be wondering how I came up with 12 noodles. I'm going to show you. All I did was look at the size of the noodles and kind of think to myself, maybe 1, 2, 3 across, and then, you know, part of one down on the end. So I'm hopefully going to have 3 layers of noodles. So that's 12 noodles total. So that's how I came up with that number. So that may help you determine how many noodles you need for your pan. So this is how I like to drain my hamburger meat. I live in a house with a septic system, so we definitely do not want any sort of grease going down the pipes. I know there's a million different ways to do this. Some people like to take a paper towel, wrap it around their spatula, soak up all the grease that way. Other people will, I've seen a lot of people that drain it straight down the sink, but all I do is I put my strainer on top of a paper plate, and then once I lift it up, all of the grease will stay in the paper plate. Then once it's solid, so it gets down to room temperature, it turns into a solid, then I just throw it straight in the trash. So that is how I prefer to drain my ground beef. Okay, so what I've done is I've added my sauce to my meat. I do add just a little bit of water to the jar, shake it up, make sure we get all the sauce out. The water is going to cook out, it'll be fine. And then one thing that I do different, this is something my mom taught me a long time ago, is I add just a little bit of sugar into my pasta sauce. So that's plenty, and then I stir it up in there. That just kind of helps cut the acidity of the jarred pasta sauce a little bit, and it just makes it really delicious. So that's something we enjoy in my house, is having a little bit of sugar in our pasta sauce. So I'm just going to let this cook on low. The noodles like about another 3 minutes. Then all I'm going to do is drain the noodles and run them under some cold water. The reason I run them under cold water is because if you have not tried to pick up a noodle that has been boiling for 10 minutes, it's really hot. And so just by running them under cold water for a minute will make them more manageable to put in the pan. Okay, so we have assembled all of our ingredients that we need to make our lasagna. We have our pan that we've already oiled up. Again, the oven is set to 375 degrees. We've got our ground beef with our sauce already on it. I'm using this Italian style blend cheese from Kroger tonight. It is skim mozzarella, smoked provolone, romano, parmesan, and Asiago cheeses. Normally I just use mozzarella and some nice parmesan, but I used up all my parmesan yesterday on the chicken Florentine recipe, and I want to save my mozzarella for when we make homemade pizzas. So we're going to try this blend tonight, and 2 containers of cottage cheese from Kroger. These are just the small curd cottage cheese. You can use small curd, you can use large curd. It just depends what your family likes. We prefer the small curd in our house. We do not like the other type of cheese that a lot of places will put in lasagna. I can't remember the name of it now. You know what I'm talking about. It's more the gritty type of cheese, and we don't like that, so we're not going to use that in ours. So what I'm going to do for each layer, the first thing I'm going to do is actually put some of the meat mixture in the pan. I want to get a spoon to use instead of my spatula. So I'm going to put some of this in here, at least one more scoop, and just spread it around the bottom of the pan to put a little moisture in the bottom of the pan. One more will do. Doesn't have to be spread out perfect, just so that there's a base layer. Then I've got my noodles here. I did run them under cold water, and it looks like once these grew, probably didn't need 4 per row. I only needed 3. So just keep that in mind. Your noodles may grow. You may not need as many as you think you do. I could have got away with only 9. Probably can't make this 4 layers high, so that's okay. So I'm gonna get the spatula out of here. I'm gonna use the spoon instead. So I'm gonna make layers. Sometimes when I make lasagna, I will go ahead and mix my cheeses in with my meat mixture, and that way I don't have to spread each different thing on here, but I didn't do that this time. I'm just gonna traditional layer my lasagna. So I've got that, a little bit more for this one. Then we're gonna put on our cheeses. Actually, I think I'm gonna start with the cottage cheese. Need a spoon. My hubby's getting him a snack. He's hungry. Axton and I had to go all over town today to take my daughter home and to go to IKEA and some other things, so we didn't have a normal lunch in our house. So I get it. Okay, so we've got our cottage cheese on there, and we're gonna spread our Italian cheese. One thing I will say with the oven ready noodles is you need to make sure you have plenty, and I mean plenty, of liquid sauce stuff touching all of the noodles, because if you don't, it will get real crispy around the edges, and sometimes it's almost not even edible if you don't give it plenty of sauce for it to absorb with. But if you've already cooked your noodles like this, then you don't have to worry about that so much. So there's our second layer of noodles. Sometimes I will cook this in a disposable pan, and honestly, I should have done that today. I just didn't think about it. When I was getting ready to film this, I just grabbed my normal pan and rolled with it. So that's what we're gonna use. If I've got big chunks of tomato, I'll kind of take those out. My family's not big on big chunks of tomato. Little chunks I can get away with in lasagna. Big chunks, not so much. And this sauce is a little chunky sometimes. Okay, so again, I'm just gonna layer on more of the cottage cheese. Not worried about how much I'm using, because I'm not gonna save this. I don't use it for anything else really. And this stuff needs to be used, so I'm not gonna worry about how much I use or don't use. We like the cottage cheese on our lasagna. I really wish I could think of the word I'm looking for that other type of cheese, because I had it in my head earlier and now I can't think of it. So I'm gonna have to look it up before the end of this video and tell y'all what kind of cheese it is that we don't like. Oh, ricotta, that's what it is, ricotta cheese. We don't like that in this house. So it's kind of dry and grainy, and that's why we like the cottage cheese, because it's moist and it's not so grainy. It's got a delicious flavor to it. So that's what we prefer. And since I'm cooking for us, I'm gonna cook with what we prefer to use instead of what recipes might call for or what restaurants might use. We're gonna cook what we like. So I'm gonna squeeze one more layer of noodles in this pan. As you can see by using the oil, my noodles come right apart. So that's why I do that. And they don't break, they don't tear or anything, so. I just am gonna end up with some extra noodles, and that's okay. If I had room in my pan, I'd put another layer, but I don't, so not going to be able to do that, but that's all right. So we're gonna add the last of our meat sauce on the top. Try to scoop as much out of here as I can. It's okay if it doesn't cover all the layer like my other layers did. I just wanna get as much of it on there as I can. So kind of, as you can see, it's gonna go all the way to the edge of the pan, and I'm totally okay with that. No worries. I don't think it'll bubble over. I will put it on a cookie sheet just in case, because I do not really want to make a mess in my oven if I don't have to. So I'm just gonna spread what's left of the cottage cheese around. Again, I know it's not gonna cover the whole layer. Totally fine with that. However much it covers is however much it covers, and that's all right. This will bubble up on the sides. That's how you kind of know it's getting close to done in the oven. So probably will cook this on a cookie sheet just to be on the safe side. Again, I meant to use my high disposable pans on this and just forgot. So, and I'm gonna cover it with the rest of this little bag of cheese. This is probably the most cost prohibitive item for most people in lasagna is the cheese. It can be expensive, but if you shop for it on sale, like I got both of these at Kroger with a coupon, that helps cut down the cost. And what's nice about homemade lasagna is there's no way my family will eat even a third of this tonight, which will leave us with some leftovers. Lasagna will freeze, so you can freeze it. We'll freeze it in squares, or we'll take it for lunches, whatever we need to do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna put foil over this for it to cook for a little while, and then I'll take the foil off towards the end. So I've got my foil, just gonna cover it. Make sure I've got it covered on both sides, and I do. Kind of wrap it around the handles, that way I know it's gonna stay nice and covered. So I'm gonna put it in the oven covered for probably about 30 minutes, then I'm gonna check on it. If it's starting to get nice and bubbly on the sides, I will take the foil off and let it cook for probably another 15 minutes. Once that's done, I will be back and I'll show you what our completed lasagna looks like. So I just took the foil off. I'm gonna let this cook for just a few more minutes, and while it is, I've got the breadsticks cooking on the bottom. This is our completed lasagna. I also made some of these $2 breadstick things from Walmart. They did get a little brown. They were on the bottom rack. I should have cooked them about half the time that I did, but they'll be okay. We'll live with it for tonight. So we're gonna get this plated up and we're gonna eat dinner. So leave me a thumbs up. Let me know if you've ever made homemade lasagna, or if you haven't, if you might attempt it after this video. Let us know any other Italian dishes you would like us to try to make in our kitchen. We are always open to Italian any night. So we'll see you in the next one, guys. Okay, so I just wanted to take a minute to wrap up the lasagna video. I hope that you found this informative, and maybe this is something you'd like to try for your family. We do homemade lasagna once every few months. We just really enjoy it. It's much better than the store-bought lasagna. If you were to try them side by side, you would notice a huge difference. And so we like to take time to make homemade lasagna when we can. I will correct something that I said in the video. I normally cook this lasagna at a much higher temperature. I've just gotten the habit here recently of 375. That is actually the oven temperature that bakes best for my oven. Not necessarily cooks dinners the best. So it does for some things, but not for everything. So for lasagna, I really should have cooked it at probably around 425 degrees for 25 minutes covered, and then about 15 minutes uncovered. My brain didn't work that night, and so I cooked it at 375. And the first couple of slices were okay, but then the closer you got into the center, it was still a little chilly. Not quite heated up as well, so that's okay. You can zap it in the microwave. It's not a big deal, but just an oops, my bad on my part. It just goes to show, like I said, we do real life here, and my brain just, I guess, thought we were baking a cake or something. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed that video. We will have lots more cooking videos coming up. In fact, the next Cook With Me video that I'm planning to film is a sopapilla cheesecake. I've never made that, and it's always something that I enjoy when I go to parties or events at other people's houses that they have it. So I think it's time that we learn to make it together. So we will see you in the next one, guys. Bye.